Are we just this body? It's a composition of different gross material elements. No, it's just water, fire, ether, air, earth. But that's not all. We have also something that's known as mind. We have also something that's known as false ego. We have something also that's known as intelligence. That's a subtle body. Nobody can say, I don't have, anybody wants to say, I don't have intelligence? Huh? Anybody wants to claim this? No? Maybe you can try. Maybe it's the case. Maybe, I don't know. That's like, but in general, people have. Everybody has some intelligence, but we don't perceive it. We understand that somebody has it by some symptoms, because it's more refined, it's more subtle. And even more subtle than that, there is a soul, there's the energy, there's a living being. So it's not all just directly perceivable by our senses. So we will understand this through the sound, through the qualities of sound. So I will a little bit speed up because it's a long presentation. I'll just give you some basics, but we'll go through most of the slides that are there. Okay, maybe this slide also we can have off because it's not necessary and better focus will be on the board. Okay, so power of sound. We all have this, some experience when there is a thunder, right? Some lightning and thundering. I remember in few cases it was so strong that everything was shaking. It was so loud that sometimes you start shaking. I really feel it very terrifying. It's like almost frightening. It just seems like the whole earth is being torn apart. It's such a powerful sound. Such a powerful sound. So it affects us. So that's one of the experiences we have, how the sound affects us. It just steers our being, it steers our emotions. No, it affects us. Somebody tells you something, it's all sound vibration. Somebody tells you something nice, you melt, right? You feel, wow, this is great. Somebody tells you something horrible, you're just all broken up. Sound is such a incredible power to affect not just our emotion but our whole being. So we'll be discussing about power of sound. You see, some sweets are there. Maybe we'll have something afterwards. So there's a story about, maybe you can relate to that story. Everybody, I know, always parents complain this kids are eating too much sweets and this and that. So one boy really had some serious health issues, and that was more than a century ago. So then one mother decided that he's not listening to me, he's not stopping eating sweets. So I will go to one great sage, and because that person has an authority, then if he tells to this child, then he will stop eating sweets because it's not good for his health. No? It's very becoming quite detrimental. So then she took a long journey, took a lot of trouble, and she brought that boy to that saintly person, and then she requested him, she told him, this is what is going on, so please instruct him not to eat sweets. So then that person paused, and then he thought about it, and then he said, please come after a week. And then what could she do? And she left, and then again after a week she took a very troublesome journey, and she came to that saintly person, and then that saintly person said to that boy, okay, don't eat sweets anymore, it's very bad for your health. And that boy, hearing that person saying this, because he had him in great reverence, then he stopped eating sweets. But then the mother was taken aback and said, well, you could have done it 1 week ago. Why you didn't do it that time? Why you did it now? So then the saintly person said, well, 1 week ago, I was eating sweets myself. No? So the point is, just like we hear, achar prachar, no? The way one behaves, that way one can instruct others. You cannot just instruct others and not follow yourself, no? It has the power of influence. If we, say something but act in a different way, it won't have so much effect, right? No? So what is that impetus to act? So this is what we're going to be discussing, different sound levels having different effects on us. So when there is a greater purity, it will affect us in much greater way. If that's not the case, it won't mean anything to us. Just like sometimes somebody gives certain information and some people are excited about it and affected and they just want to act or do something immediately, and some are not. Why the different? Information is the same, but we find different reactions to it. No, we find different reactions to it. Let's say we go out and we say, please chant Hare Krishna. And some people will immediately take to it and some people will not. And they will just maybe take it in contrary, some opposite way, no? So why is that so? Because that's a different level of sound that has been perceived. It's not that the sound doesn't have the potency, maybe. That also might be there, depends who had uttered the sound, that's also there, but it also depends who received the sound. Now we'll talk about, let's say, radio broadcast and transmission and receiving that sound. That will come a little later. One example will be given. But it depends what kind of receiver you have, what kind of transmitter you have. It's not going to be all the same. So that's what you're going to be getting from that particular sound vibration. Okay. So Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So pretty much everything is vibration, no? We know everything starts from the sound. We will talk a little bit more about that, it will come. But it's generally said, from the sound everything starts, just like string theory and some other ideas about the beginning of the universe that also we will mention a little bit later on. Everything is sound, and based on the sound everything starts manifesting. So just like the atom, what is the atom? It vibrates, right? The vibrations. So just like we hear some sound, it enters our ear, it stimulates the nerves, it's transmitted to the brain, no? And then it stimulates the brain, and then we hear it as a sound, and then we react in a certain way depending what that sound it was. So everything is vibration. Everything is vibration. So atoms also, they're vibrating, and then the combination of the atoms, also different molecules, they also vibrate. So it means practically everything is vibration. Everything is vibration, either creative or destructive, just like principle of entropy in physics, right? Everything is vibration, either it's constructive or it's destructive. Okay, so then our body also, it's based on certain vibrations. Some people who cure in such a way that they understand what your bodily vibration or certain organ of the body is, and then try to set it in under such a frequency to cure that bodily parts. So everything has its certain vibration, and of course nowadays, to how many negative vibrations are we exposed? 5G, which is cancerogenic, and so many other things. It's not like you try to search for some Wi-Fi and then how many are there? How many are there? Of course, you can't connect to all, you don't have a password, but how many are there? All these different, levels of energy and vibrations are passing through our body, affecting our body, our brain, and so many other things. It's really horrible. It's very disastrous. So then human brain waves also. We see here how they're affecting our emotions, our ability, cognitive ability. And they say that the most important one is the middle one, which is here alpha, which is relaxation, state of relaxation, visualization, and creativity. Yeah. And of course, the other ones. So human brain also, these are different vibrations, the different waves. So that's a neural activity. So thoughts and feelings are the waves. Yeah. That's also there. Whatever we think is also, these are waves, different feelings that are there. These are waves, just like we have here polygraph, for example. They can measure that. They can say whether you're lying or telling the truth, because they already know what kind of vibrations by certain sounds that you produce, you're manifesting. So they can say, are you a liar or not? So it can be measured. And of course, they also measure. It's very horrifying, actually. This was 2 years ago. Mass surveillance and extremely privacy invasive technologies. They can monitor your brain, via implants. Can read your mind by different vibrations. They can understand what you are thinking, decoding complex thought of degree of stress, attention span, how a person is feeling, thinking, and what draws their interest. This is heavy. This is heavy. They already use it in many companies, and whether they say fatigue levels. Of course, they want to control people, and they can influence people through those implants by producing all these different vibrations to stimulate them to act in a certain ways. It's really, you're becoming like a machine. You're becoming like a robot. You will have no freedom. It's a very, very terrifying. Of course, they will paint it as a wonderful future. Introduce these brain waves will be used for wonderful things, fighting crime, being more productive. Watch out for that one, being more productive. Finding love. What a nonsense! What, we're on the same frequency, or what? It's like, and the primary way in which to interact with all other technology. That's another dangerous thing, terrifying thing. How to interact with technology. So it's this fibits for the brain. It's very scary. It's very scary. And that can be done. That means you could be manipulated anyway. Anybody wants to manipulate with you. It's pretty heavy. So they can measure these brain waves or any other waves, and they can influence you also. That's already existing. It's there. So what is also interesting, that as we say, all the different bodily organs have a different frequency. So also there's a frequency of the earth, which is a natural frequency. That's 7.83 hertz, which said it heals even the human body, and it's equivalent to the alpha brain waves. You see, it's quite conducive also for the body itself. So we are in the harmony with the nature. It's very interesting. If this is natural, of course, if we are in the natural state. So that also points out that there are certain places on this planet which are more resonant with us and influence us in more like this, like it said, alpha. It's a relaxing state of meditation, state of deep concentration, which is helpful for the spiritual life. So therefore we have on this planet, we have some holy places which are more resonant like that, and they affect us also in a more positive spiritual way compared to some others. So that is there. So this planet is not just some dull mass of some material elements. No, it has some resonances, it has some life, it has some very powerful positive vibrations that affect us. That's why the holy places are all there. So that makes, even from scientific point of view now, that makes quite some sense. Okay, then we have these different notes, different vibrations also that can, and they do have mathematical relationship, which exists there between the frequencies of the different notes, like this hashing technique. So many interesting correlations. So they all have different, like these vibrations, and they also affect our chakras in the body. That means our energetic systems, which affect our health, which affect our emotions. If that is not in the harmony, we become diseased, we become sick, we become influenced in so many different ways, which we already said. If our organs are not in the under certain frequency that they should be. So this is also, there is a correlation between that as well. So here, solfeggio frequencies correspond to the chakra frequencies. It's very interesting. With the seventh chakra vibrating at 963 hertz. So they've measured all of this. So music also, it affects everyone. It affects plants. They did so many different kinds of experiments. When they played some heavy music or something, then the plants would die. They would fade and die. No? You have some experience you can share. Yeah. Maybe you could start playing Maha Mantra to your plants or something to see how they grow. And then, of course, when there is some positive classical music or some Vedic mantras being played, the plants also respond very, very nicely. They grow better. They give more flowers or so. Just like very soon now, within 2-3 weeks, our garden, the champa, will start giving flowers. So you're all invited in the morning. You can start plucking flowers for Radha Bihari. You can chant and they will grow better. You have experience. So then the music also, they did experiments, unfortunately, on the rats. And they were also exposed to different types of music. And then it was found that when they were exposed to some classical sattvic music, they were healing better. That's very interesting. They were healing better. If they were if they had undergone some operation or something, when they exposed to some music like this, sattvic music, they would heal better. But if that was not the case, they were exposed to some very heavy music, then that healing process wouldn't take place. It would be more difficult. And then another thing, when they were exposed to in a prolonged way to some heavy music, they would even become very aggressive, very violent, and even to the point of being cannibalistic, trying to eat out other rats. It's pretty heavy. So pretty violent. So you see how the sound has the effect, of course, on the. So it said that this classical music reduces cortisol. So that's one of the chemicals that we found in our body and stress levels. But then, loud and fast music is producing stress, just like they used to have in Middle Ages. They have some different drums and trumpets when people would go to the war, no? And even nowadays, they have helmets. You can listen to all kinds of, heavy music, and that would induce that kind of adrenaline, aggression, within yourself, and then you become more aggressive like this, but it's an addictive thing. You always kind of seek for that. That's a problem with it. And on the long run, that cortisol actually destroys your body. It destroys your body. So it's not healthy at all. You want to be effective or efficient. You want to come to that mode of passion for some period of time. Okay, fine. But on a prolonged time, it will destroy your body. It will destroy your brain, destroy whatever it's exposed. It will destroy everything. So it's not healthy at all. And then, of course, in army, they use the sound as a weapon. USVs and LRADs, whatever. They can use that to paralyze people, to scare them, to make them vomit, maybe, to make them, all kinds of things. It doesn't affect. So they're doing all these kind of horrible experiments. But the sound has an effect. So then, of course, we know from the Bhagavad Gita point of view, we have the different qualities of nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas, right? So we know that the nature, it's in the mode of sattva. It's very healing, very pleasant. Cities are in the mode of passion mostly. And then, of course, there are activities and places which are in the mode of ignorance, which are very destructive. So we see how these different vibrations and sounds and places, like we already mentioned, the holy places, how have different effect on ourselves, subtly and in a gross way. So here in this chart, we can see that the different modes, and then different qualities that are there. Let's say outlook, motive for something, and what kind of music one likes, or it's affected by future, food, health, worship, knowledge, action, values. You can compare. You can see here, how in different modes one is developing or has developed different qualities like that. So it's very interesting. We can just pick up any let's say motive. In sattva, it's knowledge. Sattva guna people, they like to accumulate knowledge. They like to know what's going on. But in rajas, it's just enjoyment. That's the motive. And in tamas, it's just no goals. That's complete ignorance, laziness, dullness. So then music, peaceful. Rajas, active, aggressive. Tamas, irrational. So then it leads, sattva, future leads to upper worlds, rajas, earth, that means middle, tamas, lower. So like this, you can see, you can read for yourself, so you can get some idea, how these different qualities also affect us. So then sound and karma, it's very interesting. I'll just, if you can read some of this, but there are very interesting statements how by producing our sound, we may think vibration. We're talking about vibration. So what are you going to tell to someone? You have to be very cautious because you get a reaction for that. Very serious. We talked a little bit some other day, we mentioned different levels of karma, bodily karma, mental karma, and karma which is produced by the speech, which is lasting for lifetimes. Bodily karma, it's burned in this lifetime that you produce. Mental after this body until you get another one. That's pretty serious suffering also, it can be there. But karma produced by the words or instructing somebody else or telling something to somebody else, this is extended for lifetime. It's the heaviest one. Heaviest ones. So here it said, the ignorant seek to injure the wise by malice and by backbiting. By doing so, the critic takes upon himself the load of the wise man's sins. You see, you criticize someone, you get their sins. You get their bad karma, which he, the wise man, casts off by forgiving the ignorant. You see? Very interesting. This is all Mahabharata. And it said here, a person being criticized should not criticize in retaliation, for the pain felt upon receiving criticism, if endured, will itself consume the critic and bring in the exchange the result of his good deeds. Similar thing. So one who remains tolerant, not becoming angry, certainly attains the abuser's pious credit. Indeed, his own sins are transferred to that wrathful person. The karma is transferred. A person who praises someone in his presence but criticizes him from behind his back is no better than a dog. His chances for elevation to higher planets are completely spoiled in this world. Okay, the last one. Whoever indulges in praising or criticizing the qualities and behavior of others will quickly become devoid of his own best interest by his entanglement in illusory dualities. So be careful what you're talking, what kind of vibrations you produce. You're very much responsible for that. That's why we try to talk only Krishna Katha and not do Prajalpa, wasting time blabbering around. We're producing vibration, we are affecting others, we are affecting ourselves. So then, as some examples of the mantra siddhis, how the sound affects, just like Prabhupada tells one story, when he was in Lucknow, there is one Chatak Mandir, which was some old palace, and it was some medical office. And he had one friend who was a medical practitioner, student at that time. Later became a medical practitioner. So he said there were many cases of snake bites. So that's pretty heavy, you know. Some people died. Some cobra was there. So they called one Mohammedan, you know, some fakirs and like this. So he came and he chanted some, he caught the snake. He caught the snake. He pulled it out. So now there were some medical students, they didn't believe. They say, what is this? You know, chanting mantra, catching snake, what is, you know, they didn't believe. So they went and see that fellow. They went to his home. And Srila Prabhupada is telling the story. So they went to his home and just imagine like this. So he had many baskets with snakes. And when those students came, you know, they were challenging. They say, now what is this? You know, how you do it? And then this fakir, he just let all the boxes open and all the snakes started crawling. Just imagine now. Everybody started jumping on the chairs, running here and there, screaming, crying, you know. It was a chaos. It was a chaos. You know, they were like scared like anything. And he said, don't think that they will not bite, that they cannot bite. They can bite. They have teeth. They're not non-poisonous. They're poisonous snakes. Yeah. They were all crying and screaming, you know. It's like, so, but he said, but they will not do anything to you as long as I'm here. So then they asked him, can we do the same thing? He said, no, you cannot. So this is also another important part of this presentation. Again, we say the potency, who produces the sound. It's not just what sound it is, what mantra is being chanted, but how it is chanted. What is its potency? Yeah? What is its purity? It's very important. So he said you cannot do it because you don't have that sadhana, you don't have that purity. It will not have the same effect. No? You understand? This is a very essential point. Will not have the same effect. So yes, the snake can be tamed, just like Srila Prabhupada sometimes quotes. He said even the envious snake can be tamed by mantra, but the envious man cannot. Pretty heavy, no? Oh. Anyway, so the snake can be tamed. So mantra siddhi. And there was one devotee. His grandfather was white tantric. He was from Assam. We hear quite anybody from Assam up there. So I was there for some time, traveled, but he said his grandfather, he had quite some cities, and he would practice. He said that he could make someone, if you sit on the chair, he would chant a mantra. You wouldn't be able to get up from that chair. That chair would be stuck to you until he chants some other mantra. You won't be able. Very interesting. But he would do some serious sadhanas, serious practices. And then he told me a story. He said that his grandfather, when he would go to sleep at night, he would just sleep outside, no mosquito net. And he would just put one bamboo stick and sleep very peacefully. And then in the morning, what would happen? Because he chanted mantras, all the mosquitoes in the vicinity would get stuck to bamboo stick. In the morning, he gets up, he takes that bamboo, puts it in forest, chants another mantra, all the mosquitoes fly away. Like to have that mantra? Yeah, you have to practice some sadhana to have that power of mantra. So that's a sound vibration. And then, of course, we hear of examples that ancient sages, they would light the fire just by chanting the mantra. No, just by mantra, sound vibration. They were so powerful. And then there are certain mantras that are mentioned in the Shilpa Shastra for construction. Like sometimes we may wonder, maybe the pyramids of Giza or this and that, how they did these big stones and this. In the Vedas, it is said, whatever quality of the stone is, you can make it softer and lighter by chanting certain mantras. That's how they could carve, they could put it anywhere. You know, they use that. And then once they would done this, then they would chant another mantras to set it back in the original state of hardness or heaviness. No, that's how it would work. So then Krishna, we have example in Dwarka when he was fighting with Shalva. So then there were certain demons that just like nowadays, similar to some UFO phenomena kind of, they were hiding, they became invisible. And but they were heard being screeching and cursing Krishna and whatever, and like shouting and this and that. So what Krishna did, he killed them all. How? By shooting arrows which seek the sound seeking arrows. Isn't that interesting? Sound seeking arrows, better than any other so-called missile technology nowadays. Sound seeking arrows. I see here. So all the Danavas who had been screeching lie dead, killed by the blazing sound-like arrows that were triggered by sound. That's a mantra vibration. We hear there are many examples in the Shastra, like how did Bhishma create a dam when he was a small boy? Using astra. Astra, it's empowered weapon. Using astra. But they chanted, they would use their arrows and they would do sadhana and they would chant 20, 30,000 times. They would chant the mantras empowering certain weapons. You read Mahabharata, you'll find so many examples. Drona, he pulled the ball out of the well. Ekalavya, he created that covering, for the dog, shut his mouth. King Vena was killed by chanting the mantras from the Brahmanas. Ambarish Maharaj chanted the mantra, produced the demon. It's all mantras, you see, just mantras. There are innumerable examples. They had such a power, they had such a purity. They could produce all of these things. But then that's what one has to practice. And one has to have certain qualification. And then you use the mantras, then they would just use like these arrows, and these are just the tools. But the real thing was, we hear about wind weapon, fire weapon, this weapon, that weapon. How? But they used the mantras. They had the power to use the mantras. It's all in Dharma Veda, but nobody can decode it because where is the qualification? So-called nuclear weapon, everything. We hear of that also. Brahmastra. But that's astra. So they use mantras. They could do this. So that's the power of sound. So sound has a form. Sound is not impersonal. We'll touch upon that. Like these are cymatic patterns of sound. There was one Hans Jenny, he was a Swiss scientist. He came out, invented tonoscope. It's just some membrane, like some kind of surface, and then he would put sand, and then this would vibrate, or sometimes even liquids, which wouldn't fall down when this vibration was going on. So it was anti-gravitational also. That was very interesting. And whatever, when he would produce certain sounds, there would be different shapes formed on that surface. Very interesting. Different shapes. So sound has a form. So when they would chant different mantras, also you get different mantras shape. Very interesting. And especially this in the West, you have any, you don't have so much experience here, but you know, I'm just coming now from home, and in the window, when the windows are frozen, you have different snowflakes. Very beautiful sounds, depending on what was the sound, what's the vibration, what's going on. Very interesting. So like this, we already said the notes, you know, we mentioned the notes, and we mentioned the different frequencies, some notes corresponding to different frequencies. So you get different shapes, very beautiful geometrical shapes, just like here, the snowflakes, you see? So symmetric. And we already said there is a mathematical correlation with it, no? Very beautiful. So there was one lady, so she made a very interesting statement that these forms of snowflakes and faces of flowers may take on their shape because they're responding to some sound in nature. Likewise, it is possible that crystals, plants, and human beings may be, in some way, music that has taken on visible form. It's pretty interesting. Huh? So that's why the sound, manifests a certain form. And they did many experiments with water. They did many experiments with water, and they found again when the water was exposed to certain sounds that molecules, so it's not just what is water, like we said, like everything in the world, it's not water, it's just water. But what kind of water? Is it water that it's completely dead, devoid of life, or it has the potency? Big difference. Big difference. Why people kept water in the silver or copper vessels? No. Why? Because it energizes the water, it gives its life. They measure, anyway, I can talk a lot about it, but we don't have time now. But the point is, let's say you take fresh Ganga, and you take some tap water, and you give it to some dog, whatever, and he can make the difference. You might not, but the dog will. And he will not drink the tap water, he'll take the Ganga water. So much purer, so much life, he can feel the potency. Huh? Or any other animal maybe like this. They can feel, they're a little more sensitive in that way than we are. So, and then again, when that water is exposed to so many different vibrations and sound, horrifying sound, which, like, you listen, we said that music and stuff, which disturbs your life airs, disturbs your chakras, disturbs everything. So also, you measure the molecules, you'll see they're completely distorted, sickening. They're sickening, completely blurted out. But if it's very nice sound, then again, you'll get such a wonderful crystals and so forth. Yeah. So then we also, as we said, there is that geometry, no? That mathematics in the sound, no? It is Lakshmi yantra, no? So it's sound. It's all sound. So the sound, yantra, and then creation of the universe. It's all based on sound, just like we have here. What is this? Huh? What is this? Golden ratio, Fibonacci's golden ratio, no? You see, from the small, we talked about atoms, and we can talk about galaxies here. No? Everything is vibration, and everything is very geometrical. And it keeps on expanding like this. And that's why you get in the nature, you can recognize all these different patterns, shells, the cones, the hurricane also, which, the waves, the sunflower, rose, whatever, some examples like this. Everything has a very, very interesting mathematical correlation. So then ragas. Ragas, we know, are a combination of notes, no? Scales. And they have a form. This is very interesting in Shastra. It is described the ragas have a form. So there is one Hindoli raga. This is Radha and Krishna on the swing. It's a sound. Sound raga, but this is Radha and Krishna on the swing. And there is one other raga. How is it called? Vasanta. That it's Cupid. That denotes the Cupid. it's a form of a cupid. So like this, different ragas, they have their shapes, they have their colors, they have their dress, they have their ornaments, they're all personified like this. They have their different qualities, all the ragas. So any form. So that's why there's so many stories, like Narad Muni when he was learning how to play his veena. So they was playing in such a bad way that all the ragas were like deformed and horrible. It's like interesting, Then he learned how to play properly, Then all these ragas were very beautiful. It's like this. So then, like we have some noise. So noise, does the noise convey anything? Let's say if some people want to say, okay, you're talking sound has a form. Why this form? Sound is formless. How can sound be formless? If I make some noise like is that having any meaning? Is that having any meaning? Is that having any purpose, utility? Scratching, screaming, shouting, sometimes you hear some, or remember when the speaker sometimes go, it's like, so that has no form. So what's the use of? Even science says, the noise is not a sound. Noise is not a sound. So what does it? Sound has a form. Sound has a form. It's not a noise. Sound has a form. Just like we say, the word Krishna and Krishna are non-different. That's the whole point. Krishna and Krishna having a form, it's non-different. Sound has a form. So it's not that sound is formless, and just because they may think the form is limiting, it's not limiting. It's not limiting. That's the spiritual sound. Krishna is everywhere. That's why the sound is in the ether. No? Sound is in the ether. It's everywhere. It pervades everything. It's just whether you're capable. We talked about receiver, no? Transmitter, receiver. So sound is everywhere. How much we are capable to decode it. But it has a form. So now we talk about a little bit words, examples, and concepts. Let's say the airplane. Airplane. Somebody say it's just the word. It's not just the word, because there may be many examples of airplane, even some examples that you don't know about it, but you can very easily recognize as a concept that that's an airplane, no? Did you see all the airplanes in the world, all different types and shapes and whatever? No? Did you see all of them? No, you did, definitely didn't. Some latest, I don't know, fighter jets, this, that, whatever, I don't know. Everybody's seen this? No, but you see, by the concept that's an airplane. So it's not that just the word, will denote like somebody with just whatever I see, this is only what I accept, Pratyakshavada. That's not all. It's not that just, okay, I've perceived, but how many airplanes have you seen? But if you see even those which you haven't seen before, you understand it's an example, yeah, but then it's also a concept. Let's say concept in terms of, let's say, Vaikuntha airplane, no? And it's not something that it's affected by time and space. No, it's eternal. But you understand, it's an airplane. It's Vimana, no? We say in Sanskrit, Vimana. And you understand, by the concept, you understand it's a Vimana. Yeah? So it's not that you have to have direct perception. But it's not like any ordinary airplane affected by time or space. That it's destroyed and it doesn't exist anymore. But you have the idea because the concept is there. So that's why the sound and the form, so it's not just the word, it has something much, much deeper behind it. Just like we understand what is the concept. Let's say you're driving the car, or let's say you don't drive the car. Let's say somebody else drives the car, and there is some kind of crash, no? And the man comes out and said, you hit me. You hit me. You understand immediately what it means, no? Does it mean that you hit him? No, you hit his car. But does he, neither he is perceived by others that he is a car. Is that the case? No, nobody perceives him that it's a car. And neither that person fancies himself that I am the car. But you understand by the concept. When he says, you hit me, you know what had happened. That's a concept, no? So that's how the idea of the sound or certain information, points to certain form and points to certain understanding behind it, which is a concept. So this is also then from material point of view, when we hear something, so we sense it, the ear receives the sound, sends the mind for analysis, mind stores result for future use, result is knowledge. So this is something unique for the human beings. We can convey many things by sound, right? By speech, by writing, grammar, different sentences. We can evoke so many things. We can develop relationship. We can enhance relationships. And there's so many things. Animals don't have that opportunity, no? So that's on the material level. Even here we see, the power of the sound, power of knowledge. You have knowledge. How much you can do with so much knowledge. So that's sound as an information. Just the words itself, what the power is there in the words. And that's just on the material level. That's just on the material level. But on the spiritual level, from the Vedic point of view, sound it's an information. It's not just a word. Because we also, just like we said, it's not just we hear by our ear. We have our subtle ears, no? We have our subtle body. So we have also subtle ears. That's where we are hearing. Actually, we are hearing even with our spiritual ears. That's even more than that. It's even beyond the subtle. So it's an information. Just like I said before, can we convey information just by scratching and no? Sound means information. So it's not just some kind of formless thing. So persons who have learned and who have true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object. No, so just like we said airplane, immediately you have some idea. Okay, something flying. No? That's more on the Vedic note. So indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view and constitutes the subtle form of ether. So that's a Vedic definition of sound. Sound is the quality of ether. And then, of course, we know has a spiritual aspect. When breathing of Vishnu is sound of Vedas, so that from Om all the Vedas are manifested, and that all comes from Lord Vishnu. It's just from that, just like Lord Brahma. How did Brahma create? He received the mantra. First he heard tapa, performed austerity. Then he received the mantra, which I won't tell you, which is kind of initiation then. but anyway, I can. So he received the mantra, and all different letters of that mantra he used to create different elements of this material world. Just from that one mantra, everything material is created by that sound vibration. That's Lord Brahma. So here, of course, we have Katha Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, glorifying the Om and pointing out it's the essence. So just from one Om, everything else was manifested. Everything else was manifested. So that's how Brahma, that this whole creation has started from material world, and then the dissolution of the universe through breathing and sound, then the embodiment of the Vedas, the Gayatri mantra emanating from the sound of Krishna's flute after entering his ears appeared in the four mouths of Brahma, uttering Brahma being purified, attained second birth. So then that's how he became spiritually qualified, Lord Brahma. So I have bestowed my powers on you. You now possess the necessary powers for creation. Now Brahma now create the bodies for the living entities in this universe. So it's all through sound. That's how Brahma did it. All by sound vibration. Of course, scientists also had some idea they're hypothesizing. But anyway, this is sound waves or vibration that drowned out in the early universe, sculptured its structure, the best measurement, you can read this. Anyway, so they're proposing something, have some idea about the sound. We already mentioned some things before. So beginning of the sound. So then spiritual sound wave mantras, mind try to deliver. No, we know that how the spiritual mind also delivers us, and it originates from Krishna, and then turns into Pancharatri Gayatris, end up with Om at the end, and then this Om is the beginning. As we know, material reflection is there of the spiritual world, and then from Om we said Gayatri mantras, Vedas, other mantras, and so forth. The whole creation is manifested through it. So then Shastras say, we'll just do this brief, there are different properties of the sound, and they talk about this Om again, and then Nada and Bija, mystic sound and seed. That's Shabda Brahman, God as a word, and then Nadi, which denotes the stream of consciousness. So again, it's not all the same sound, different sounds. So then we have vibration of ether. We said the sound is quality of the ether, and the vibration of the air. So they had some ideas in the West also. The Pythagoras says the music of the spheres. So then they differentiate different sounds, levels of sounds, like anahata, which is unstruct, and then ahata, or struct sound. So that's what I said. It's the different receiving and transmitting potency, just like in the radio broadcast. So they're divided into these different categories. Certain frequency, which is repetition in the wave form. Okay. Anyway, this might be a little complicated. I won't go into details. But just to give you some ideas. So struck and unstruck, as discussion in the Shastras about it. So then, of course, we have Om, and which points out to different, we'll come to the one chart which will explain this, different levels of sound. It's composed, just like all the Om contains all these different levels within itself. And that mantra represents material, subtle, and the spiritual levels of existence. So we will explain this. It's just a little bit just upcoming. And then, of course, anatomy of sound modulation. Everybody knows what is modulation. You also get different vibration. And just modulation means, let's say I produce, let's say just ah. If I say ah, I can say ah in many different ways. I can modulate that ah. So I can say ah, it will give different frequency. It will give different vibration. So it's the same sound, but through modulation, it will give different effect. So it conveys or manifests different states of material nature. So like white light seems simple to the eye, but it carries the potency of all other colors passing through prism. Now, similarly, Om, that conveys ultimate knowledge of Brahman, divides into Saptasvara, 7 sounds, Saregama, Padanisha. And then similarly, there are 7 chakras. We already said they have different frequencies and they correspond to these different notes. So very interesting, everything in the Om. So what is one of those? One is this Madhyam and Pashanti Vak. Like Brahma said, Pashanti, that's ability to perceive. There was one story, there was one lady that mountain lion entered her home, and they were scared. They didn't know what to do. It was all big mess. And so she telepathically requested that mountain lion to exit out of the house and go into the forest. So sometimes you hear of that you can send pictures to animals, and that's something that they respond to. Try to do that. Send some pictures. Imagine something, send it to them. They might respond. Very interesting. That's telepathy. Like we know in Shastra, Vyasadev, he was told to Satyavati, he told to Satyavati, his mother, that whenever you need me, you just think of me, I will come. And he would appear. Same thing, Kunti. Bhima told his mother, Kunti, whenever you need me, when he went with Hidimba for holidays, whatever, and said, whenever you require, you just think of me, immediately I will manifest. That's telepathy. That's the level of this Madhyam and Pashanti Vak speech. So now this is very interesting. Just try to follow this. We're almost done, just a few more moments. We'll just do it fast. So that you can see this, there's Vaikari, Madhyam, Pashanti, and Para. Different levels of vibration. Different levels of vibration. And here you can see that this is very gross. Vaikari is pretty gross. And that's our ear, gross material ear. Madhyam and Pashanti are on the level. That's more internal sound. Now this one is external, so that corresponds to mind or the subtle body. And then Para, it's spiritual, completely spiritual sound. So same sound has different levels. Same sound has different potencies. Depends again what you can perceive by your purity and what you can produce by your purity. That's why I remember in the beginning I said that impetus to act, that sage told that boy, don't eat sweets. That purity, that quality, it makes difference. It makes difference. So it's not all the same thing. I just said the same thing, it will have same effect. No, it's not the same thing. It has different levels. What is the quality of it? Okay, now we have this little table here. We'll just give you some, I hope, clearer idea about these 4 different levels. So you can see sound levels. So by Karivak, it's only 1/4 of the sound. Only 1/4. And this is material sound vibration. Just like we talked about words, just the words. And Madhyam, it's thoughts, mental speech. See? Pashyanti, it's already visualized. And Paravak is transcendental. So Vaikari is the grossest level. It's heard through the external senses. That's all. Madhyam, and the levels of Madhyam, the object is perceived as something different from the sound. Sound is connected to an object, mostly by convention. Just like we said, these are like that example, words, examples, and concepts. In the Pashyati stage, sound possesses qualities such as color and form. On this stage, the difference between language does not exist, as this sound is intuitive and situated beyond rigidly defined concepts. Speech is connected to the object. It's almost near oneness between the word and the experience described. No? So then you see the sound and the form. When we say Krishna is Krishna, it's almost there. And in Paravak, that is. There's no difference. So it's beyond the perception of the senses. On this stage, there is no distinction between the object and the sound. The sound contains with it all the qualities of the object. See? That's how the form and the sound are known different on this transcendental level. So then you can see what is the manifestation of consciousness. That's why anybody on this material level, it's just wakeful state. That's it. You're just conscious of your body. Madhyam, it's dream. Pashyanti, it's deep sleep. And para, it's tudiya, spiritual realization, spiritual understanding. Then type of body, of course, that responds to material sound. That's physical. It's just physical body. Madhyam, it's subtle. Pashyanti, it's causal. And then para, it's transcendental. Causal body, that's the first body you receive when you fall to the material world. That's the first contamination. Causal body, karana. Okay, so then the different energies. Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Icha Shakti, Chit Shakti. What is Chit Shakti? When nowadays we read Srila Prabhupada's books, you can feel the energy. You become moved. You become inspired. Why? Chit Shakti is there. Same word, same sentence that somebody else can say and this and that. If there is no Chit Shakti, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. Yeah. So Chit Shakti, it said, just like this example, it's just like electricity. It's not the wire that's so important, but what is the potency that flows through that wire? What is that electricity? That will have an effect. So it's not bound, it's not limited by time and the space, because it's spiritual. That's why you hear some MP3 player or recording or something. If it has that Chit Shakti, it will affect you. It's not spoken now, it's spoken who knows when, but it has that Chit Shakti, it will affect you. Yeah. So that this different energy of desire, knowledge invested in thoughts, creative action, potency for manifestation, they just correspond to these different levels of sound vibration. And then we have cosmic levels, Bhu, Bhuvar, Svarg, Vaikunta, corresponding to also different chakras, Vishuddha, Anahata, Manipura, Muladhara, depending on which level of purity is there. Okay, I hope you're able to follow. Then the process, by certain process, you can attain those levels. By karma yoga, you're still on the material level. Jnana yoga, you can achieve madhyam, potency and understanding. Ashtanga pashyanti, you can visualize, just like yogis can visualize Paramatma. No? Madhyam or Jnana yoga, that's kind of, you get some Brahman realization a little bit. But Ashtanga yoga, you can realize the form, can realize Paramatma. That's pretty good. But by Bhakti yoga, it's transcendental. You can receive Ananda. So Satchit Ananda. By other process, you can't achieve Ananda. And now we see what is most important for us, chanting stages. What is chanting stages? That means we are now the different levels from Shraddha to Prema. From Shraddha to Anartha Nivriti, this is Maya Smarana. We are chanting, we are thinking about so many things, we are making offenses, we are not very good chanting. So this is on the level, you're producing sound on the level of Vaikarivak. Not very potent, not very, it doesn't give you much impetus for anything, doesn't give you much purity, doesn't give you much taste. Until you come to at least Madhyam Vak, where the name and the sound you produce, they're the same. At least you know Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You hear. When you produce the sound, you hear that sound. That's a level of Nishta. That's pretty good level. That's a Madhyamadikari level. And then if you're even more advanced, more focused, more Krishna conscious, then you come to the level of Ruchi and Asakti, which is level of taste and attachment, which is Rupa Smaranam. Then you can see the form of Krishna by that. You can have that perception. When you chant Krishna, you can see Krishna. It's pretty heavy, no? And then, of course, on the transcendental level, then you have that level of bhava or prema, which is beyond the body, but anyway, just stick to bhava. So then you have guna and lila smaranam. You perceive qualities of Krishna and you're in the pastime, just like we read descriptions of the acharyas. They could describe different pastimes. Just by that potency of the sound, they reach to that level. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost done, just to finalize. So even materially, they've analyzed different sounds, how it affects our body. So they say different mantras can help the unwinding. They have an unwinding effect on the DNA. So they measure this. They can do this. I'm just going a little fast here. So then they say they repair your telomeres, which are very important for your reducing your old age and so many other healthy things. Good cells, strong immune system, sharp brain, fluid joints, lung capacity, healthy heart, blah blah, so many things. Very interesting, but all by different sounds. One being exposed to different sounds, so that's on that gross level. And then effect of kirtan. They say, if you're vegetarian, very good. It will affect your telomeres and your DNA and so many things to a certain few percent. If you're in good association, that will also help you. If you are doing some yoga and exercise, that will also help you. And so fresh air, this certain percentage, up till 10% each of those, certain better conditions, will develop. But if you do kirtan, it's a 43% improvement. That's the greatest far. 43%. That's pretty heavy. You just do some kirtan every day. You do a little chanting. You do a little, japa. And also, amazingly, how it will restore your body. How it will help your body. And then, of course, mantra affects the subtle body. If you keep on praying, like it said, they also measured something. They have a favorable psychological and physiological effects. Just by mantra, also like this. Chanting. So then science has shown that human senses are imperfect and limited, but that there is a world of sensual experience beyond human perception. So this is what Vedic Shastras confirmed, these limitations. And emphasize the importance of the sound vibration. Why we say Shravanam Kirtanam, no? The most important process, hearing and chanting. Shravanam Kirtanam. Just like we know, if we put a cardboard in front of our eyes, we may shield ourselves from the light. Can you shield yourself from the sound? How much more sound is powerful? Or at least we perceive it as such, no? As the Prabhupada said, you want to wake up someone. You can put the light, mostly it won't have so much effect. Depends. Some people are a little more sensitive, but still. But if you utter the sound, how much more effective it will be there. There is some interesting experiment with in athletics. We all know they use the gun, no? And then you hear the sound and you start running, no? But they tried that with light. They would put light in front of each and every one, and then they would turn on the light. But they noticed one interesting thing. When the light would turn on, it took the body a longer period of time to process till it came to the brain to start the reaction. You see? So the light is not as effective as the sound. When you shoot the gun, immediately they kept on running, much faster. So that's the effect of the sound. So I'll read this. This is very important. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. It said, it creates I mean, it's about a creation. It's about, again, sound being manifested in different ways and uh, creating everything within this universe. So it said, all the objects of our sense gratification are products of egoism in ignorance. It is understood from this verse that by agitation of the element of egoism in ignorance, the first thing produced was sound, which is the subtle form of ether. It is also it is stated also in Vedanta Sutra that sound is the origin of all objects of material possession, and that by sound one can also dissolve this material existence. Anavriti Shabdat means liberation by sound. The particular sound capable of doing this is the transcendental vibration Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you can dissolve by sound vibration all the contaminations that you have, all the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Maha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all of those. You can just dissolve all of this nonsense completely, just by sound vibration. You see? And you can become liberated by the sound. And even on top of that, you can achieve Krishna Prema. That's the power of sound. Of course, again, all depending with what purity you chant that sound. So you can become liberated, anavriti shabda, by sound. Our entanglement in material affairs has begun from material sound. You listen to some garbage, you listen to some Bollywood stuff, and